Hey YouTube, I've got an interesting one for you. I've been teasing this for the last several videos. I've been doing all these videos on granular, and then it occurred to me, well, I should really do a video on how to make some textures for your granular machinations. And that's what we're going to do in this video using zero input mixing, which means that we're not going to have an instrument. We're just going to use a whole lot of effects in some creative ways. So I'm in AUM, and we're not going to put anything in our input here, but we are going to add a second channel here because we need a limiter. Okay, do not skip this step. You absolutely need to use any kind of a limiter. I wonder if there's one built in here. There might be, actually. Yeah, makes peak limiter. Yeah. All right, I'm actually unfamiliar with that one, so I'm just going to use the limiter from Amazing Noises, because I know that right out of the gate that one's going to work perfectly. So seriously, do not skip this step. You need to have a limiter when you're doing this, because there's going to be all kinds of crazy noises, and you need to be careful with your ears, okay? So now we want to say that this first channel is just going to go straight to mix bus A, and this is going to take the input of mix bus A, and now we're going to hear whatever is coming through this left channel. We're going to hear through the limiter. So now we can get into actually making some noises. And the first thing that I'm going to throw in here, like we're just going to use a whole lot of different effects. And I want to emphasize that I'm not getting paid to include any of the apps that you see in this video. The only people paying me for this video are you patrons, okay? So the effects that I'm picking here, it's not an endorsement or anything like that. I'm just picking them because I know them very well, and I know that they've got unique characteristics that are going to be amusing for this video. So the first app that I want to use to be our source of every bit of the madness is going to be AUFX Dub. And the reason that I'm using this one is it's got a really easy to use feedback thing here, where I just double tapping on it automatically sets it to 100, which is going to be really important when we're screwing around with this, because if it's going over 100, it can get kind of crazy real fast, and you want to be able to just tap it and get back down to 100. But the big sell here is it's got this tape noise thing, which is a great way to start things off. And I'm noticing that it's actually using all the settings I had the last time I loaded up this. So you can actually do a lot of things to tweak this noise that we're hearing. But you see, I just took the noise out, and we're still hearing that because we're at 100% feedback. And you can, but you probably shouldn't, take it over that, and it'll start to get some extra layers, and you can then play with the tuning, fine tuning. And the course time to color the sound. Like, this is just a wall of noise, right? But now it's suddenly less. Okay. That was one of those instances where we're really glad we had a limiter on. So let me do this again, except this time I won't be talking about what I'm doing, so I'll pay attention to the feedback so it doesn't get too crazy. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to leave the feedback at 100. We know it won't get too crazy. Bring in some noise. Course time is really high, so it's going to take a little while to build up here. Trying to take down the Alright, take down the tape noise, so now we're just hearing the feedback. And by playing with this course time, it's adding some wobbling stuff that we're going to really hear. As I continue to play with that, it's getting kind of crunchy. And now this is an interesting tone that we can shape. We can detune it, play with the fine tuning. And I'm losing it. Oh. Sometimes you'll tweak it, you'll lose the feedback. And I'll just pop in some more noise. And now we got a whole extra layer of noise in there. And we got 2 layers of noise. And this warble's amusing too. So that's giving it kind of an oscillation that it's going to be useful later on. I'll show you why. Okay, we've got our source thing here. Right? Now let's take this and throw this into even more effects. And we add a chain of effects in AUM by just sliding up to reveal this +1. And let's add in some reverb. Trying to look for it. It is Rat Shack. So this is not a good reverb, but specifically because it's not good, it's going to be amusing for us. So it's got all these things like depth and this microphone thing here, which adds an overdrive to it. And we can dramatically screw around with the delay for the left and the right. So you can just shape this around to get a tone of whatever kind of source material you want to use in the granular. So we're just making weird tones. Maybe you like this tone. Maybe you like this tone, which is a little bit more mellow. I'm liking this tone in the center here. It's got like a little bit of grit to it, but it's also got the wowing. All right, so from here, let's throw this into another kind of weird reverb unit. IVCS3 lets you use all of its individual modules. I love the spring verb in here, and we can mix this down so we're not getting all of it. Here, let me boost it so you hear what it's doing. So it's giving it kind of a hollow metallic tone. I'm trying to find a way to mix that in, but not totally lose all the other stuff. Like, this is our source, and we want to mix in some of that hollow metal. That's pretty good. We'll leave that there. And now we've lost a lot of the tonality there. So let's add some more by dirtying this up. And for that, I've not seen anybody else use this app, but it greatly amuses me. Cleveren's Degrader, which is a distortion effect. It's like super easy to use. It's got bit depth stuff and sample rate and saturation. And saturation is specifically what we're looking for here. Right now it's mixed to 100%. I'm not sure if we're going to leave it there, but let's bring up some saturation. And now bring down the sample rate. So now we're in this like chiptune hell. That's fun. Now let's mix this down because we're losing everything else. Actually, let's listen to how this jitter is going to affect things. See, right. There's no way for me to just mute everything really easy, is there? Okay, so one thing to keep in mind at this point, now we're building up all these different sounds. What we want in our final result is going to be a lot of different textures for the granular synth to take different slices of it. It doesn't matter which granular synth we use. It's going to want to have lots of variations in the texture so it can grab these different interesting slices. So that's what I'm trying to do here now, is figure out how much I can cram into this. Like that's a great way of describing it. I'm trying to cram as much sonically interesting material into this as possible. So when this is 100% wet, we're losing too much of this other good stuff that we've been developing. Now we can play with the filtering and everything like that, but I don't know if we really need to post-filter it. Like, that's just dropping everything. That's no good. All right, so let's go with that and keep moving. Give it just a little bit more of that. Yeah, okay. Now, so let's run through what we're doing so far, right? We're starting off with some noise with AUFX dub. Then we're doing weird things to it with Rat Shack, and we're also separating it with a different stereo delay, and then we're throwing it through a spring verb, and then we're throwing it through a degrade, which is doing all kinds of sample and saturation shenanigans. And now I want to throw in Shaper, which is another app that I don't see used too often, but is able to really mangle audio in creative ways. Now, there's a lot of different types of things in here that you can use to... this is a wave shaper. But it's also got several stages to this and a resonator. So I'm going to turn the resonator because this is going to be like something that you'll be able to appreciate here. And I'm maxing it out just so we're hearing what it's doing. We're not going to have it maxed out. But here it's taking all of that weirdness that we've been doing, and now it's bringing it kind of in a unified way. Like that's the best way I can describe it. It's a very unified tone that we've got now that's very strong. And as we pull down the mix, we let in some of that dirtiness around our unified tone. So this is a great, like, this is a dirty slider now. The lower it is, the more dirty we get. But we can also throw in some of these effects, like actually, there's also the wrapping and folding. Like there's a lot of different ways that you can screw around with this. Trying to decide how to approach this. I'll just start off with the muffin and kind of screw around with it from here. So that's greatly amplified that tight, strong tone that we were dealing with. So now I can pull down the mix and let in more of the dirty and keep that strong tone. Play with the color until we find a happy place for that. And let's try wrapping waves is kind of interesting, so let's just hear what that sounds like. Yeah, that's a little bit too aggressive. Try folding. Kind of like what we had before without all this. So let's just turn that part off. There's no point in adding the gate or the glitch here. So what we've got right now is basically where you can stop and say, okay, this is a very sonically rich thing to record now. And let me mute this while I'm talking. So it's very sonically rich. We can take this into our granular as is. But when you're recording this, you might want to keep in mind that, well, first of all, this is not a tutorial. Like, you shouldn't try to duplicate what I'm doing. You should take these ideas and run with them and do your own kind of thing. But One thing you definitely want to do, though, okay, is no matter how you end up there, at the end, whatever you're recording, you want to record some kind of subtle variation of the thing, okay? Because if you just record that same weirdness, like if you just record like 4 bars of this, it's not going to be as interesting as if over the course of the recording you're changing some element of it, because that's when the grains are jumping around all over the place. It's going to add more character and detail to the synth. So as an example, that something that I might do when I'm recording this is I might play with the mix to make the last, like as the recording starts, maybe bring in this so that the last half of the recording is going to be all this unified sound and the first half is going to be more of that dirty sound. And honestly, anything. You just play with something during the recording process that's going to add some variation for you. I'm going to record this now and take it into Tardigrade, and we'll see what I come up with. You're going to hear it in the outro here. So I hope that works out. Thank you very much to all my Patreon patrons for making these videos possible. I hope you've enjoyed this. This was a lot of fun. It's something I've wanted to do for a while, but it's like hard to try to fit in because there's usually all these other new apps to show off. But this is actually relevant to all these granular apps now. Now I have an excuse to play with this, and I hope that you'll have fun playing with it too. Take it easy, folks.